We're live.
There we are, and we're live. Great. Let's get started. While people showing up, anybody who shows up, if you could put a comment in about what you sell and where you sell it, that would be helpful for us. And then we'll get started in just a second. There we go. Okay. Why don't we start with the first question, Brie?
All right. So, what's changed in the job market?
Everything's changed. Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to do this today because a lot of people are having changes in their career, a lot of worries today about the recession possibly happening. But in sales, we're constantly changing our careers all the time. And I wanted to focus this on what I call the red pill of career planning. And what I mean by red pill, it comes from the Matrix, but the idea is that to kind of open up and explain exactly what's going on in your career, how to plan for it, and the real distinctions. Because I think in the last 10, 15 years, what's changed the most is that the tenure at companies isn't that long, meaning that there's lots of job changes. And I think a lot of people are starting to get that it's much more like a tour of duty than it is a long-term career. And even if you are going to be at the same company for a long period of time, you're probably going to have many different roles at that company. And I kind of wanted to share some ideas today about how that can impact you and how to plan for it. So the first point is really that we are, instead of thinking of yourself as an employee, I'd recommend thinking of yourself as what I call a salespreneur. And a salespreneur is basically somebody who is a salesperson, but understands that they're also an entrepreneur, that they're responsible for their own career, but thinking that it is independent of the company, the product, and your current existing customer base. So let me give you some examples there. We all get kind of comfortable that we're selling our product to our customers and our market space, but then things change and all of a sudden we're out of that job. And can we really sell anything to any other marketplace or customer? And I'm wondering, are you seeing any comments? Oh, here we go. There's one person.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and as I talk, feel free to put any questions that you have about careers, getting a job, interviewing, long-term career strategy in the comments below. That'd be helpful, as well as where you are and what you sell. And I think you have to start off first accepting that we are now salespreneurs instead of just employees. Because if you think of yourself as just an employee, what happens? You get to become really good at selling your product the way your company wants you to. You get to know exactly what your customers like, how you're better than the competition. You get used to all the tools and the systems that your company has, and you become an expert in that, which is good, but it doesn't necessarily transfer very well to a future job. And I want to kind of share with you today some of the things that I've learned over the years and what I've seen other people do really well. So first is to accept that we are salespreneurs, because it's much more empowering than thinking of yourself as just an employee at this company. So it really starts off with a mindset shift The second is taking personal responsibility for your career and your skill set and your understanding of the territory and what it takes to be successful, independent of this particular product and company. And that your value is greater than you as an employee of that company. Your value is of somebody who knows how to sell in that particular industry, so that your skills are much more transferable. And I found this with a coworker I had quite a while ago when he showed up, and this was a time where, the company all had their own hardware. So you get the company PC, the company phone, and everything, and you'd show up, and he just left all that stuff in the box, and he always used his own computer, his own phone, his own software, and he just opened up the computer, and he immediately started calling his previous customers, people in his network. And instead of taking 6 to 9 months to get up to speed, he was cranking out deals in 3 months.
Right.
And I go, why'd you go and spend all your money on that computer? And he goes, well, I didn't want all my information, all my work to be on someone else's computer. They take it and they've got it. Now, today, a lot of it's in the cloud and everything. But even things like, imagine if you didn't have access to your email anymore. You may be at the company 2 or 3 years. There's a lot of gold in that email box. Stuff that you communicated with people, contact information, context. And it might be in your CRM, but you probably not going to have access to the CRM after you leave the company. So why not have all of that stuff under your control, under your ownership, as well as the company's? And the beauty of the salespreneur is you would think that managers wouldn't like it, but managers love it because they want people who can come to the company and hit the ground running. And the old term about Rolodex deals, I don't think anyone expects you to come in walking in with deals, but they do want you to come in walking them into new opportunities to kind of soften that learning curve and be able to get that revenue to move up very fast. And a lot of people kind of shy away from this thing. Oh, that's the company's responsibility. Yeah, and it is. But it's your responsibility when you don't have the company anymore. So having this mindset of being a lot of people call it an entrepreneur at a company. The salespreneur part of it is really that you're in sales, and instead of thinking of just being a cog in the wheel, that you have some kind of autonomy, some kind of independence, but you're still dependent on them for the base salary and everything. But your network and your history with the marketplace, your product knowledge and industry knowledge, you want to be able to compound that instead of starting over every 3 to 5 years or even shorter. I'm always surprised when I'm interviewing reps or looking to interview reps that we get people that 1.5 year, 1.5 year, 1.5 year at each company. And the problem becomes, how do you get enough context and traction at that company to be able to leverage it into the next company? And a lot of people even changing industries, and that becomes even harder. And if you can think of this as you having your own process that's independent of what you're selling and who you're selling to, so that when you go and sell at another company, you still have your process. It works for you, your process to get into new accounts, your process to follow deals, your process to keep deals moving and closing them. That is independent of the product you're selling. There's lots of consistent patterns there that you can document, polish, perfect to your style so that you can transfer that into different roles at the same company or at a different company. And I think a lot of us don't think that way. We kind of put the responsibility onto the company instead of onto ourselves. So I highly recommend you try and think of how you can apply this to your particular career and think about it long term instead of just, year to year or quarter to quarter.
Mr. Eaton would like to know, how do you identify a salespreneur?
A salespreneur is a skilled salesperson that isn't tied to a particular product or company, meaning that you wouldn't want to compete against them if they went to your competitor, because they already know the territory, they know what customers care about, they know how to win deals and block out competitors. As opposed to most of the people who started a company, they came from maybe definitely came from another company, but maybe even a different industry or a different part or segment of a different industry. And they got a good 6 months ramp to learn this particular company's product and process and differentiators and value propositions and internal systems, which aren't easy. That's kind of hard to move from one company to another. But at least they understand what the market requires, and they have a pre-established network.
Okay. So for those who joined late, how does a salespreneur differ from a salesperson?
Yeah, it's all recorded, so you can go back and watch that.
Oh,
The short answer,
but just in case,
is a salesperson thinks like an employee, thinks like a 1099. I work for that company, that manager. I do what I'm told. I go to the training. They provide me all the things I need. I go out and I sell the product. A salespreneur shows up. They've got their own stuff. They've got their own prospect list. They got their own process. They're willing to work with the company and mold it and customize it, but they're pretty much ready to go after a couple of weeks instead of a couple of months.
We have a question from Mr. Goodman. I got hired to sell a service that I have deep expertise in, but the company wants me to sell other services that are interesting, but there's a steep learning curve. How do I survive past the first year?
Revenue solves all problems. So I always tell people, focus on deals in the order of closure, not on the logo, sometimes not even on the deal size. You might want to skip over tiny deals, but too many of us, we're told, hey, we really want to sell this product. And that's good, but is there any demand for it? Is there any interest for it? Is there any curiosity about it? If there is, great. If there isn't, then I'd sell what I know how to sell to the people who want it, need it, have curiosity and interest in learning more about it, and then go to the next likely opportunity. Because sometimes the company says those things, but they still want the revenue.
Right. Yeah. So what should one think about when strategizing a career path?
Yeah. See, this is critical because a lot of us kind of react to what's going on. We don't think about our career until it's not going the way we like. And then it's too late. Or it's not too late. It's just now you have to start from scratch. So I think the key is to start thinking like your network is your crew, meaning don't just contact people in your network when you want or need something. Contact them consistently to sustain a relationship with them, to help them out, to see what they need, to update them on what's going on in the market, hear their update, and not just think about your network as your coworkers, but everybody who can impact your career, your existing customers and prospects, partners, service providers, recruiters, which are critical. Most people don't call a recruiter back unless they are looking for a job. Well, when you're looking for a job, you're not going to have the context with them for them to know, like, and trust you, nor will they be putting you in front of the top people. So you got to build that relationship before it's needed. And ask yourself, how many customers today would be a reference for me? A reference with other customers, a reference for new jobs. How many partners would be a reference? How many of my managers, my past managers, would be references for me? And not just a formal reference, but let's say it's a side door or a back door reference. What would they say about you? A lot of us, when we leave a company, it's kind of like, enough of this. Right? Good luck. Take this job, and you know what? And the problem is that bridge is now burnt, but there's no hiding it anymore, because people can get on the internet, search who you worked for last, figure out who your manager most likely was, who your coworkers were, and start peppering them with curiosity questions about how well did you get along with this person? Because they're not going to drill down on your exact selling skills. What they're going to do is ask broad questions like, was he, fun to work with? How well did he do against this number? They're going to contrast the things that you're putting on your resume and your profile with what they think it is.
Right. What do most people get wrong with career planning?
They think, I think, too short term, because the people who are the most valuable in the marketplace are the people who have their 10,000 hours in right when a technology is starting to take off. Instead, what people do is they switch from one industry into the hot industry, and they've got 10,000 hours in the old industry that isn't that transferable, because they focused on the product, the company, the competition, solely on the context, and not on the heuristic, the algorithm of how to win that deal. They focused on the data, the elements of it. And all of a sudden, that's all gone. It's all new in the new industry. So what you need to do is think, what is going to be hot, not today, but next year and in 5 years from now, so that you can develop your ecosystem so that it is, exactly the way you want when that market starts to take off. Because, go into a unicorn, they typically overhire. So the territories are tiny and transient. So they're used to bringing in 15 people, and hopefully 10 will work out. Hopefully you're one of the 10. And all of a sudden, you're kind of a cog in the wheel instead of a most valuable player. You got to think of yourself, how do I become that most valuable player in that segment or that niche that you want to build a career on? And, if you look at your priorities in your career, industry is probably number one. If you pick the right industry, it's like a huge wave in the ocean, and you're a surfer. And the industry is that wave. You can ride that wave, and it's a lot of fun, and you go really far, and you look better than all the other people because you caught the right wave. So it's kind of timing, it's kind of judgment, it's a little bit of speculation. But if you're in the right industry, coming in it at the right time, that industry is that huge wave, and the company's that little wave that comes after it. And we did a webinar about a month ago about the mafia strategy, where if you can really figure this out and find a great manager, somebody who's going to do all this work for you, because that person may be much better at speculating about which industry, which company would be the right place to go right now. And if you're their go-to person, you're the big hitter for them, and you think like a salespreneur, they're going to want to take you with them instead of you having to do it all from scratch. Anybody else? You can put some questions in the comments if you'd like. Tell me what you're up against is from a career standpoint. Everybody making their number?
Mm-hmm.
So if I know it's hard to be future focused in sales, but what I look for is technologies, because if you are the go-to person on that next wave of technology, you have such a leap up. Even if you have only 1 year selling that technology, that's 1 year more than a lot of people, in a lot of cases more than that hiring manager that you have. And I think the next thing is think and focus on your reputation more than your resume. Because here's a little dirty secret. No one reads your resume. They might peruse it, but they don't read it. I've been on a lot of job interviews in my life, and I've taken a lot of interviews. I didn't read them. I'd glance down, look for certain things would stick out, but I usually went by the recruiters in my network to tell me about the person, because I figured the resume is a little at the high end of fiction in most cases. But reputation is critical. Because if the headhunter is saying, no, you have to take this interview, it's a mistake if you overlook this person. That's a signal that that person has done something that's worth looking into. And I think specialization is critical, to specialize in the type of sale that you like to do, that you want to become good at or even great at, instead of just being a good salesperson, because then you have to learn so much more every time that there's a job switch, because everyone is switching jobs, even internally. Even if you're at a big, huge company for 30 years, you're probably going to have 15 jobs at that company. So you being able to specialize on the things that you think will have the most growth potential, or whatever it is that you're looking to get, so that you can really work that 10,000 hours, which is really 5 to 10 years to become, world class at it. So what you don't want to do is 1,000 hours at this, 1,000 hours at this, and you never get your 10,000 hours. You go from SMB to enterprise, to managing an existing customer base, to channels. And those are all good, but are you getting any compounding out of it? Is every year going to be a little bit easier for you instead of starting from scratch January 1st each time?
Okay, I have a couple questions. How can you keep operational limitations from dwarfing your selling capabilities?
You have to appear like you're doing exactly what they want while you're doing exactly what you need to do. I know that's not easy, but it's an open secret at every company. And, I was in middle management at a big company, and, the stories, it's just do what you need to do and give your manager what the minimum that they need to do. But trust me, they're not reading anything. All they care about is revenue. No sales manager said, yeah, okay, you made 300% of quota, but the CRM not looking pretty. Never happened. One company I was at, the top rep never opened up the CRM and did his expense reports twice a year. It's not what managers want to hear, but the reality is you're there to sell the operational stuff, do the stuff as needed, but talk about time blocking. That should be definitely time blocked at a time that doesn't interfere with what you're there to do, which is to sell.
Do you have any guidance for a sales executive transitioning to a tech sales in an overlay role?
Yeah. Overlays are really hard because you have no one reporting to you. So basically, people are matrix to you. So you have to persuade them to do the things that you need. So your sales skills will come in handy, and the relationships will come in handy. The key is to first understand that they don't report to you. So you don't have authoritarian control over them. You have persuasive control over them. So find out what they care about, what they want to accomplish with their career, who's really good, and build that relationship, the know, like, and trust before you need their help, not when you need their help. You'll find that certain ones will be the people to go to, and certain ones you can skip.
What is the best arrangement for an ambitious sales rep, remote, hybrid, or in office 24/7?
Unless you like being in the office, I can't imagine being in the office. I've worked remote and I've worked in the office. I like remote because, okay, you don't have any commute. You set your own agenda. Now, I don't have kids and dogs and cats in my house or anything, so I don't have any interference. If you have that, you may need a separate workspace, or you may need the structure. But if you're losing even a half hour a day on the commute, there's 30 minutes. You really can't multitask while you're driving very well. You can get on the phone a little bit, but you're risking it.
Yeah.
I vote remote. I don't know about anybody else.
Likewise. Mr. Prathel says, I just have 4 years of experience in sales. Any tip for my future career?
4 years is good. You're getting into, or at least out of kind of that rookie stage, and you should start feeling comfortable in sales. What I would do is make sure you've got the experience and the results before you start looking elsewhere, because that's what managers are looking for. They want results. They get headcount, but headcount without results is just work. Headcount with results is happiness. And most managers, they got more problems than they can stand. So getting another problem isn't going to help them. They want people who can come in and figure it out on their own, who don't have to, talk to you after each phone call and email and double check with you, and be able to start building your career, invest in your career, your own training, your own software, your own materials, your own plan. Don't rely on anyone else to do that for you, because they're not going to do it the way you like it. They're going to come up with their plan for you, not your plan for you.
My company was just bought out by a private equity firm. Should I move on?
Only if you want to. Right now is probably a good time to stay. I would wait, see how it shakes out, maybe put your feelers out, contact or find out who great recruiters are in your space. Build up your network of people who have left. Depending on how good your relationship was with your manager, see if your manager is thinking of looking. I wouldn't leave just because there's a change in ownership. That can be a good thing. I don't know. I've been through a couple of them. It's usually a good thing because they spent a lot of money. They don't want people leaving. In a lot of cases, what they bought were the people and that revenue stream in which you're hopefully part of. So they want that to continue. And certainly early in my career, I try and get it, at least a 2 to 3 year run at a company where you're having success. If you're not having success, it's a different story. But if you're having success in sales at a company, I lean towards staying than leaving. Because when you leave, you kind of got to start from scratch. You don't know the manager, you don't know the product, you don't know the territory. You're probably not going to get one of the best territories. So you have to kind of build that up from scratch again. If you have that already, I try and maximize that and read these things and try and think, how do I apply this to my career for the long term? I saw one about title or company. Unless you want to go move up into leadership, and if the title doesn't match the responsibility, I'm not sure the title's worth it. If the title's vice president and no one reports to you, it's a nice title. Looks good on a business card, looks good on LinkedIn, but I'm not sure if it really gets you what you're looking for. Company is important, but manager is always most important because the manager is the person who's going to be your champion within the account. Same as when you do a deal at a customer. The company's nice. They got to afford the product, need the product, want the product. But if your champion, if you don't have a champion, really hard to get a deal done because you have to be the champion. When you go to a company, your manager needs to be your champion. If they're not, then it's you. And the manager's between you and all of them, and they're going to listen to the manager before you.
How do you avoid becoming complacent when you're far ahead of your quota?
Sell more. The more you sell, the more you make, the less complacent you get.
Any suggestions on how to create a sense of urgency and make my proposed solution a priority when competing priorities with prospects is often an obstacle?
Yeah, that's not a career question, but I'll answer it. You have to work off of their timeline. Okay, always work off of the end outcome that your product's connected to. When do they want that? What's the date? Then work backwards, all the things that they need to do to make sure they hit that date. If you were to buy a summer house, okay, what's the date that you care about? It's not the date you get the key. It's the date you can go there and have fun, right? It's the date you can invite your friends over for a barbecue. So the lights got to work. The plumbing's got to work. The heat has to work. The air conditioning has to work. If the builder starts saying, well, when do you want? You want Memorial Day? To him, it might be, here's the key on Memorial Day. But you're thinking, no. It's got to be furnished. It's got to have food in the fridge. It's got to have, the hot tub got to work. The pool's got to be full. All of those things. And then work backwards. What we do as salespeople is we work forward based off of our quota, our deadlines. This month, this quarter, this year. but they don't care about that. Plus, they think the day they order the product, they get the benefit the next day. That's not how it works. You buy the house, but typically it's not the way you like. The furniture's not there. The movers haven't come. Do you have an occupancy permit? There's a lot of details there that customers don't think about until they have to. It's our job to have them have to see those obstacles and work backwards. And then all of a sudden you've got urgency because they're like, holy smokes, it's June. I want this done by October, and it's going to take 5 months to do it. It doesn't work, so we got to get going. They do it for their reasons, not ours.
Mr. Theys has a question. I'm starting a position in a new territory in an industry I've been in for a while. Any suggestions on how I approach prospects that don't know me yet?
Yeah, I would first, look at your territory, put a priority list together of who's most likely to be curious about it, interested in it. Who do you already know? So leverage your network already. Don't start from scratch. And then work that priority list, most likely to least likely, instead of just opening up the CRM and starting with A and going to Z and getting discouraged. Go easy to hard, not hard to easy.
Brian, do you have a rule of thumb as regards to sharing customers and key account data with new sales reps?
I think I'd wait until there's some trust. I mean, why would you share it with them? I mean, do they need it? Or, I mean, how would they not have access to it anyway? Is it in the CRM? Is it word of mouth? I'm not sure that there's enough context there to help you.
How can you be more effective reminding referral sources to keep you in mind? Especially people who have become your friends. It's almost harder sometimes to keep them on track to make introductions.
Do something for them.
Oh.
It's not their job to refer you. It's mutual, unless they're getting paid. And this becomes part of your ecosystem and your partners. One of the biggest hacks I had was I would partner up with consulting firms who would do the work for the software that I sold. And they became my free consultants, because if they had bench time, they would go in and do free training and free consulting for me with my prospects. But guess what happened? They would hire them and they would buy my product. And no money ever exchanged hands between us. Nothing was ever formalized. It was just an ecosystem, mutually beneficial. Same thing like in real estate. You got mortgage brokers, you got appraisers, home inspectors. You don't call up and complain, hey, I need some referrals. You give them a referral. The law of reciprocation is so powerful that when you do something for somebody, that becomes the bill for them to do something for you. And there's nothing better. And it's not just, sending them Starbucks gift cards and donuts and stuff. Really help them out.
How to play big in sales every time. How to crack big deals. Big.
Yeah, you hit F5 on your keyboard.
Yeah.
First, you got to learn how to do big deals, and then become really good at doing big deals and be able to sense where your time is best spent and how to do that. So there's no simple answer. That's why I was joking about the F9 key. But I'd first learn how to do deals, then bigger deals, then huge deals, and find out what type of sale and what type of customer fits your skill set and your patience and your ability. Too many people start off with a new territory and they find the biggest logo in the territory. And that might be a great match, but usually it isn't. What's usually a good match is the ones that look like the companies that came into the company through the marketing efforts, because those are the ones that have self-selected themselves as being interested in what you do. Also thinking about where are they in the technology adoption life cycle? Are they early adopters? Are you selling an early adopter product? Are they a big company, a laggard? Would they ever buy a new product? Are you selling a laggard product into a early adopter space? So sales is a lot more thinking profession than a lot of people give it credit for. Everyone thinks it's a personality profession, and that's a big part of it, but you have to have somebody on the other end with a personality as well. You have to really think through how to spend your time, because that's the most limiting asset you have. You can't get any more of it. You can't pause it. You can't buy another second of it.
How do you know when it's time to make a transition into a new company to sell a different product or service than what you're currently selling?
Everyone's got the best sense of that for themselves. Have you been there too long? Are you not appreciated? Does it not match your skill set and your personality? Is your manager not have your back? Is the product obsolete or kind of not at the top of the market? But be careful also, because the grass always looks greener. And I've seen too many salespeople just pop every year to a new company just because they get that honeymoon, 6 to 9 months where, they're not being pressured every day to close a deal. But then you got to think of your career. It's either on a spiral up or a spiral down. And once it starts on the spiral down, it has momentum and inertia that's really hard to slow down and stop and reverse. Spiraling up is hard to sustain, but it's all about your performance, and your performance is very much dependent on your manager, your timing with that territory, your skill set, and the ability to get deals done fast, and the utilization of your resources, your time, your technical help. So you really should think it through and not just leave because you're unhappy. Is that it?
I think we have one more. How to parlay sales experience into training lingo to land a role?
I think you really, if you want to get into training, it's not that hard, but you have to really kind of come up with something that's formal, whether you use somebody else's book or course or structure or methodology or your own, but it has to be documented. It can't be word of mouth. It can't be war stories. Too many sales reps who have success, they get out of selling and then they want to go into sales consulting and training, and it's all kind of what I call MacGyver. Okay, in this situation, what I would do is defuse the bomb and then get on the helicopter. It's all this kind of contextual selling instead of understanding how companies buy. How do you control that process? How do you guide it? How do you keep it moving? And how do you prevent it from getting stalled?
Mr. Keeling has a question. I'm currently making $225K 5 years into my sales career. Guys in my space make $500 to $1 million a year. I'm considering getting into insurance because of bigger money long term. Thoughts there?
I don't know the insurance space, but I'm assuming they're making that because they're getting residuals off of past years' clients. I'm guessing. I don't know. So you might have to build that book up. I would really sit down and interview them and understand how long did it take, how much control do they have over that, how real is it, and how consistent is it. I don't know. I know mostly on the technology side. I've seen people do really well on recruiting and the services side. Sorry, couldn't be more help there.
Which is the best medium/channel, or I guess media, to reach out to prospects in B2B scenario?
I liked LinkedIn, but all of them can work. LinkedIn has kind of a natural social element. The key thing is to not do what everyone does, which is, I think one of my students called it the pitch slap, where they connect and then they pitch you. And they call it a slap because it's like nobody wants to connect with somebody to hear their commercial. And that's what most people do. They'll put a nice invite and they'll hit connect. Oh, thanks for connecting. And here's what I do. And then tomorrow here, I do it more. Haven't heard back from you. You still interested in hearing more about me? Don't do that. People love to talk, but no one wants to hear your commercial. And this is what everyone gets wrong about prospecting. All the stupid cadence tools. They just plug in their commercial and then the follow-up to their commercial. And no one wants to hear it. Find the people who are most likely to be interested or curious about what you do and start a conversation with them.
I think that's it.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everybody who showed up. What I'll do is this will be saved and put on my YouTube channel. So just search Brian Burns Sales on YouTube and you'll be able to watch the whole thing from the beginning if you missed any part of it. And I'll see everybody next time. Thank you, Bree.
Thank you. Bye.